Alright, welcome back to the boss modeling live stream for Punch Bomb. This is where we left off, and today we are going to start unwrapping this monster, which is quite the task. Hopefully we'll be able to finish, but who knows. So, let's dive right in. I guess I'll get started on the hands first, since those are on their own layer, and I only have to do it once for both hands. So how I do this is I like to unwrap one piece at a time and then shove it on its own layer. We're also going to save this as a new version of the file. So let's get started. Oh, this is a big undertaking. But yeah, I'm just going to unwrap each piece individually, then take them all, combine them, and then hit the unwrap key again, and then rearrange the UV sheet to maximize texture space. So first things first here, let's go ahead and get stuff beveled that's not beveled already. So that looks a lot nicer. Hey Atticus, how's it going? We are unwrapping the boss today, which is tedious and gonna take a while. Okay, so since this is a game, I tend to only do 2 for the bevel strength. So we'll go ahead and set that down to 2. We can even up the thickness again. The scale wasn't applied, which is why that happened. But we want this to be about there. Then we can hit apply on the solidify, apply on the bevel. Oh, after the solidify is applied, we want to bevel the edges that couldn't be beveled. So we got that done. Now let's unwrap it. Unwrapping is one of my least favorite things in the world. So let's go ahead and put this. Oh, a quick trick for unwrapping. If you come over here and under options and hit live unwrap and then tag seam, whenever you cut a seam after it's unwrapped, at least once, whenever you cut a seam, it will automatically unwrap it. And then if we also hit this button right here, it'll show us our current progress. So it'll automatically do stuff, which is a really nice feature. And I have to think about the best way to get this one done. This is a pretty tough one. I'm thinking I don't actually want to cut that. So for anyone who's not familiar, unwrapping is the process of preparing a model for texturing. And you have to figure out how you would lay it out in a flat space, and it's kind of tough. Sometimes. So what I'm thinking is, first of all, these underfaces aren't even going to be visible, so we can go ahead and delete those to save on poly count. So I guess this will be the cleaning up and unwrapping. We will keep the bevel there though, just because it'll hide that those faces are gone. I don't know, let's keep the faces. And then let's cut out this part. So we have the top piece. Then we can cut along these edges so those spread out like that. Then you can also swap between angle-based and conformal unwrapping. Sometimes conformal will give you better results, sometimes angle-based will give you better results. We're also going to have to cut these corners so they lay out flat. And we'll go go ahead and cut these corners as well. And the rest of it looks good. So that piece, I think, is done. We'll just put him on a separate layer. We'll unhide everything. We'll come back up here and we'll work on the next piece. These we might be able to get away with just doing that. Looks like we're not going to. You can always swap between angle-based and conformal to see what gives you better results. But it looks like we're going to actually unwrap these. So we will set the bevel down to 2, apply it, unhide. Then we'll unwrap around the bases. Just because unwrapping is, yeah, it's tedious, repetitive, and time-consuming. So people don't have to watch this. It's just me unwrapping stuff. Just has to be done, and if I'm gonna make a time lapse out of the whole thing, I want it to be part of it. Okay, so those are done enough until later. We might straighten stuff out later once we combine everything. Let's move on to the next piece. This one's going to be a bit tough. Oh, geez, this one's going to be tough. So, I think we can, for our sanity's sake, we can separate these out and do them individually. So we will apply the solidify, apply the, oh, we don't want to apply the bevel until we can bevel corners that still need to be beveled. The reason these have to be beveled is because, those ones we can leave, is because I was beveling on the solidify, so these edges didn't technically exist when the bevel was happening. Since this is an underface, these edges are fine to not be beveled, because nobody's going to see this. You have to keep wary of what people are going to see and what people aren't going to see when you're working on game art, because you can save on poly count that way. The hands, I'm going to keep pretty decent high poly just because they're going to get really close to the player. So then we can apply the bevel. We can go ahead and unwrap just so the live seam will work. And then let's go ahead and cut out the bottom face. And then we can come in and cut the corners so it lays out better. And then deciding which of these corners to cut is going to be a bit of a challenge. To select a whole edge loop, by the way, I'm holding down Alt and right-clicking, and that selects an entire loop as opposed to just one edge. Okay, so this is pretty messy. We can try unwrapping it different ways. Angle-based looks pretty bad too. So let's come in here and see what we missed. We missed this corner. And this corner, and that definitely helps some. Figuring out what to do about these corners, we might just have to let it have stretched textures, just so I don't have to manually do stuff. Let's go see what's going on over here. Oh, we missed this corner. And these edges don't need to be unwrapped. So this is already looking better. I think it's passable for sure. Because fortunately we don't have to do textures in Photoshop anymore since Substance Painter's a thing and saves us a lot of time and effort. We can come back over here and fix that one. Yeah, since this is just one layer, it's all fine. And then once everything is combined, we can take the inside pieces and make them all take up a lot less real estate on the texture, since they're going to be a little bit visible, but nobody's going to notice if they're a little bit lower resolution. For games, it is all about cutting corners. Where can you save in performance? Okay, I think this one's more or less ready. So let's move on to the next piece. We will apply the solidify. Oh, one more thing you need to do before you unwrap is apply an object's scale, which I did not do on the previous ones. Because otherwise you can get some weird deformed UVs. I think we lucked out on the other ones, but we gotta fix that. Okay, so this looks about right. And we'll do exactly what we did on the other one. We will apply the bevel. Now we can apply the scale. And the lower is the inside, so we'll unhide everything else. We will cut out the inside loop. Cut out the inside loop. Unwrap. It's a good start. And then we'll come cut all the corners. That actually looks correct. And with tag seam unchecked under the options, you can just select one face and then control click another edge, and it will automatically unwrap it, which is a time saver. And I realize this is kind of boring, but I figured I might as well do it and live stream it since I want the unwrapping to be part of the time lapse. Okay, as long as there are no overlapping edges or anything, if there's a little bit of stretching, it's not the end of the world. So I think we are alright on this one. So move that to the layer and move on to the next piece. This one's going to be a total, pardon my language, this one's going to be a bitch. So let's get into it. We can apply the solidify. We can come in and bevel the edges that need to be beveled. Because if you're going to take a lot of time doing something, you might as well do it right. Cool. Oh my gosh, that's a disaster right there. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, it was just one overlapping edge. We're fine. We can move these in a little bit to clean it up some though. And then these don't need to be beveled on the inside. That's just a waste of poly count. So we can take all these corners and unbevel them. Because you also really want to clean stuff up when you're unwrapping. Just, it's like your final step before you're getting to texturing with the model. I tend to work in orthographic mode, but sometimes it can be useful to go into perspective to really get inside of pieces. We're definitely going to want to clean these up, so we will connect these edges. And then we will merge all this at the center. And we'll just make it essentially like a cylinder where the cap is triangulated. Because when it takes it into the engine, it's going to triangulate it anyway, and I would rather triangulate it myself than let the engine guess how I want this done. And if anybody has any Blender questions or anything, as per usual, feel free to ask, as I'm just sitting here working and it's fun to talk to people. It's also kind of late. I was planning on doing this earlier today, but then I sort of passed out. We could just skip triangulating this, but it'll just help the engine figure out what it needs to do. And we missed an edge here. Again, this is like the final cleanup phase before we actually take it into the A, Substance Painter, and B, the game engine, so we definitely want to make sure we get everything right. The modeling is the fun part, the cleanup kind of sucks. We can save on some edges here. I think we can tie these off without it hurting us too much. Yeah, Toby, so I modeled one hand and then I'm just using groups. I have to remember where I put everything. So this is all the same group. And then once it's unwrapped, all the seams will be in place, so I'll just have to... Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just have to flip the normals on the inverse scaled one. What is going on here? Oh shit, didn't realize that was going on. Okay, so these were solidified on the inside, and that's, we're gonna have to clean that up. Whoops. So to clean this up, we are going to hide everything except this. And we're gonna come in here and holy shit, this is a disaster. We'll just try to select everything. Delete those faces. Delete these faces. I can't tell what's going on there quite. I think we can delete those safely. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, we need an extra vertice. This is actually pretty messy. So I'll move these out. This doesn't have to be perfect, this is just going to be a quick fix. We want these to be pretty evenly scaled. We don't want it to be like a weird quadrilateral. And then triangles are fine because it's a game engine. It's going to triangulate it anyway. Oh, this is messy. This is very messy. We'll see what happens. We might have to clean it up a little bit further. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. What I'm thinking I'm gonna do here is... No, that won't work. I was thinking about just separating these into their own objects and having them collide or overlap, but that would be ugly. Let's take a look and see what it looks like, because it would be a lot cleaner. So if we take this, separate it, and do one of these numbers. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we will just bevel that and it should fix it. Okay, so then we can take it, scale it down some, move it in some, and I think that'll suffice if we fix up this hole. Yeah, that's not too bad. That'll be passable. So let's go ahead and do that for all the other ones too. We can take you, separate you. We can take you, separate you. And then we can delete all these faces because they're unnecessary. And then just focus on this. There's probably a better way to fix that and keep it all merged, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's going to be a dark arena. The fists are going to get pretty close, but they're going to be moving pretty fast, so nobody's going to notice unless they come watch this video and call me out on it. It will not affect gameplay, so I think we're fine. We can straighten this out some. Just final tweaks before we texture it all up. So it'd suck to have to make changes after we texture it. Like, it's not too difficult to make changes up until the point where you texture. Okay, so now we will take these and I think this is probably its own interior thing, so that's a pretty easy fix at this point. I'm glad I did both of the hands at the same time instead of individually. Once they're on their own UV sheet, they'll be individual, but for the purpose of getting the initial seams in place, it's nice to have them together. I don't know why I'm beveling these corners. It's probably not the wisest move since they're covered up. But That still looks passable, and it's a lot cleaner than it was, so we'll go with that. But now we gotta unwrap this as we were initially going to do. Interior corners are not beveled, so that's good. Then we're gonna figure out how we're gonna split this up. So we'll go ahead and save this as a new iteration, just because it's good to be able to backtrack a little bit. We'll apply the bevel. Not sure what's going on here. Looks like we have some overlapping edges. It's not removing anything. Oh, I see what's going on here. We definitely have some overlap here. We just need to up the threshold for remove doubles. Not that much though. Let's do 0.001. And that removed 6 vertices. Looks like we're good to go now. So now, okay, that looks like it's just an artifact from the ambient occlusion, so we'll let that slide. And we will mark a seam there, because we want to get the inside separate from the outside. And mark a seam there. That'll go ahead and separate them out, but it's going to give us a weird thing because they're not cut anywhere. So we'll just choose a corner to cut around. Wasn't expecting this to happen, but that's fine. And then we'll cut the diagonal corner just to give us more workable pieces on the UV sheet. And then you'll notice how these are all round and kind of weird, so we'll go ahead and cut those corners as we've been doing. Cool. And the same down here. Long, tedious process unwrapping is. I tend to just like plug in a movie on Netflix or something while I'm doing it. I've never done it live before like this. But YouTube is the easiest way to record videos and get access to them later to make a time lapse out of. Okay, so now those are a bit better. These, it's workable. Sometimes you have to call stuff good enough. This is a little bit weird. I think what we can do is just cut around each of the corners and that'll make our lives a little bit easier. Yeah, I think that'll end up being a little bit cleaner in the long run. Still a little bit weird though. We'll call it passable for now. It's all going to be on one giant UV sheet anyway. Next piece. This one should be a lot less of a hassle. We can take these guys and move them up some. Just because it's a waste on the UV sheet to have objects that are bigger than they need to be. Like if this was visual effects, I'd be like, who gives a shit? I'll do 8K maps for everything. But since it's a game, you've got to be really weary, especially since you have to get away with 2K and 1K maps. So go ahead and apply the solidify. We will bevel the extra edges. And we can delete the interior faces because those are completely unnecessary. And we can really tweak these now take the individual vertices and move them up where they need to be in terms of colliding with the mesh. Like so. This will be a hell of a lot more entertaining to watch in time-lapse form, because it'll just be like happy music going like a million miles a minute. And usually when I work on stuff, like I used to just not even unwrap stuff and just go the procedural route, but you can't get away with that in games. Inside does not need to have the corners beveled, that's just a waste of faces. These edges need to be beveled. And in terms of modeling, looks fine, so we'll go ahead and apply the bevel after we save. Then, for these guys, they're pretty easy. We just unwrap around the corners and they'll spread out nice. You'll see that, yeah, so they'll just spread out like that. You just have to do it for each one. What's up, Atticus? I mean, this is a pretty boring stream. I'm just doing this so I have the video to use in a time-lapse later. Because it's way easier for YouTube to store my video files than on my local hard drive. Unwrapping is like the worst. It's the least fun part of making any 3D model. It looks like we screwed up here a little bit, so I'll drag those back down. So, it's looking better because all those are properly unwrapped, so now we'll get on to the main attraction. We will cut out the inside, cut these corners, which I think it's just these corners. I don't think there are any more. Right, looks more or less correct to me. That's a little bit janky, but it's whatever. I guess if we really wanted to, we could also cut these corners. And that might help get things better for stretching. Yeah, that's a lot better. And the inside faces don't really matter. We just want to put something there because people might potentially see it. Ah, congratulations! I saw that you hit 200 subs. It notified me that you uploaded the video. Put that on a new layer, move on to the next piece, which is going to be these ones. These ones should be pretty easy. We'll actually join them, because why the hell not? There we go. Accidentally hit the Windows key instead of the Control key. So we'll apply the bevel there, and then we'll just come along, and we'll just cut off the bottom face, unwrap, and then cut around these corners. And that should be plenty. Huh. Might be easier to keep it clean. And then we can figure out what side we're looking at these from, and we'll cut the under edge because that'll be less likely for people to see seams down here than up there. And that looks pretty good, so we'll move on to the next piece. Get all the hard ones out of the way first, I think, and then focus on the easy ones like the cylinders. So I guess we'll do these finger pieces next. And for that, it's going to be exactly the same as everything else. One at a time, slow and painful. And these are already solidified, so I don't think we need the interiors to be beveled. That's just a waste of faces. Man, I was hoping I was just gonna hop in and get the whole thing unwrapped really fast, but this is pretty painful. I've never done a robot this complicated before. And we do want these corners to be beveled. And let's take a look at what his scale is. Okay, the scale is uniform, so that's good. So I think we can actually lower the bevel on these a bit. Come in, fix all these corners. And I think that looks pretty decent. So let's get to the unwrapping part. Oh, I missed some edges. We'll go into perspective mode for this. Because none of these have any business being beveled. They haven't earned that right. And I'm sorry I wasn't around last weekend for anybody who was interested in watching. I was participating in the winter UE4 game jam. Oh god, raid incoming? Shit. People are just gonna ask for Pikachu and I'm working on boring 3D shit. No Pikachus. I'm working on my model. I need to make a time lapse out of this. Beveled is, notice how this edge is sharp? Then turn that on. Notice how it's round? That's beveled. And I can change how much it's beveled. Yeah, I see all the needs more Pikachus. I'm not going to do that today, guys. If I was playing Fortnite or something, that would be fine, but I'm turning this into a time-lapse later, so not going to happen today. I'm sorry, Pete. But getting this done is pretty important. And I gotta finish this robot, guys. It's not Pikachu, but I think it's pretty cool. Oh, I can't do more Pikachu, Pete. I have to turn this into a time lapse later. No, I can't remember which one I was working on. Alright, this looks like the one I was working on. No Pikachus. I gotta do a time lapse. Y'all can ask as much as you want, but I don't want a bunch of Pikachus showing up in a time lapse where people are trying to see how I'm doing a 3D model. Yeah, so for anybody who hasn't been here before, I've been working on a game called Punch Bomb for a while, and right now I'm working on the boss. It's in early access, so I'm working on the boss. And tonight is the super boring, painful process of unwrapping him, which means taking it and flattening everything out so I can put textures on it. So it's not the most interesting thing in the world tonight, but it's important for my time lapse I'm going to make later. But if anybody wants to learn Blender or has any questions about Blender, I'm more than happy to answer that kind of thing. We can go ahead and apply the bevel and start unwrapping this dude. So since this looks like it's intersecting anyway, we can cut along those edges. Man, now there's so much pressure. We can mark that seam. We can go ahead and unwrap and see how much of a mess it is, which is a gigantic one. And then we can cut out the centerpiece. Oh, Mario Gamer, unwrapping is like the most boring, uninteresting part of making a 3D model, but it's necessary if you want to texture it. Since we already cut, we don't need those seams. Yeah, so unwrapping is where you take a model that's 3D and you lay it out in a 2D space. And it allows you to put textures on it. So you can take a 2D image texture and map it to your 3D model. That's what unwrapping is for. The reason I use Blender instead of Maya is because I like the modeling interface better. It's a lot faster for me. Like in Maya, for instance, yeah, I'll go into a Blender tangent here and explain a second why I like Blender better. First of all, it's free. But second of all, modeling is really fast, so I can just come over here, select a face, extrude it, make that. Or if I wanted to make something fast, like let's say I wanted to make, I don't know, like a cup or something. It's really easy to come in and completely with hotkeys, just like make a cup. Which it looks blocky right now, and that's fine. But now we have a cup, and that's pretty cool. Like, it's really fast to model in Blender. But mostly it's just free, and I like the user interface being completely hotkey driven. And there are better ways to model a cup. That's just the way I like to do it. Also, Blender has built-in real-time rendering with cycles, which is nice. It's a full path tracer like V-Ray. So now we have a rendered cup. We can make this a bit brighter. That's a bit too bright. We'll put you down to 4 or 2. And then if we want this to be glass, there are a whole bunch of built-in shaders for that. So I can just say, now it's glass and it's refractive and everything. Which is nice. So, I don't know. Blender's cool. Maya's cool. They're all pretty cool. Use whatever you're comfortable with. But I've been doing all of the art for my game in Blender, and it's coming out alright so far. So, back to unwrapping, the least fun part of anything. Oh, also, unwrapping in Blender is relatively painless compared to other tools. I heard Maya reworked their unwrapping toolset, but back when I used it in college, it was god-awful. It's nice to be able to just have things automatically unwrap like this, though, as you cut seams. You gotta cut the corners to make it cleaner, and then we will cut around here, I think. Which, unwrapping is usually a hell of a ton easier than this. It's just, when you have really complicated shapes like this, it gets pretty tough. Alright, so then we can cut out the inside. And then we can cut around here. It's like a puzzle, unwrapping is. Just figuring out the best place to cut things. Oh, and I can also just hold control and select the next edge and it'll cut. And it looks like I missed an edge somewhere. Yeah, there we go. So this is starting to look a bit better. Oh, if y'all want to see some physics stuff in Blender, I can show that off a little bit too. It's really easy to do like fire and smoke. I can just, I don't know, I can say quick smoke, and now I have a smoke simulation, which is pretty cool. And you can obviously tweak it and make it look a lot better. There's also quick cloth, so I can bring this up, subdivide it a few times, and then, oh, I thought quick cloth was a thing, but you can just hit cloth and then hit collision. And now you have interactive cloth simulation, which is pretty cool. Physics simulation's pretty easy, but I would prefer a game engine for that, just because that's what those are built to do. But you can just hit rigid body, and I think collision. Nope. I think you also have to make that one a rigid body. But make it not dynamic. Yay, physics. So that's pretty cool. I don't know, there's a lot of neat stuff you can do in Blender. I use it primarily for modeling these days. But my entire day job is in Blender. Alright, so let's see if these are successfully separated. Those look pretty good. We can cut the corners to make them a little bit better. More of an afterface. Oh, Maya's good. Daz 3D is kind of a scam. It all comes, in terms of actual 3D packages, though, it really comes down to personal preference. I just don't like the interface for Maya. My day job, I make animated promotional videos for an automation distributor, which pays well. They treat me really nice. Benefits, the whole 9 yards, so I'm pretty happy with that. In terms of After Effects and Photoshop, right there with you. I freaking love After Effects. I mean, all of the 3D packages are pretty capable. I mean, Maya is the industry standard. That's not going to change anytime soon, which is why I like working on my own projects. This is looking a lot better. And like I said, I'm just unwrapping all the individual pieces so we can combine them later. So we just gotta cut around the inside now. Which I think the inside can be 2 pieces here, just so it's not a weird, awkward shape. So that'll flatten that out, and then we'll cut it right in half. And that looks pretty cool to me. So we'll move on to the next piece. So many things to unwrap. Yeah, After Effects I've been using since like shit forever. That's what I've been doing After Effects since like middle school. And then they made us use Nuke in college, which is pretty great too. But Nuke is really expensive. Okay, so number next. Yeah, they keep adding features. Same for Blender, it gets more and more complicated. But the same things you tend to want to do stay in the same places, which is nice. I think this is going to be less beveled. Yeah, I think we beveled this a lot less. So we'll go ahead and fix that for all of these, just so we don't have to remember later. And then, same thing as last time, I have to get rid of the edges being beveled. Which can be really easy to tell which ones need it when you don't have the modifier enabled. The only 3D package I really hate is 3ds Max. That one's god-awful. A lot of people love 3ds, but I could... not a fan. Houdini is really good if you're doing simulations and stuff. I really like Houdini. I don't really know what to talk about at this point. If anybody has any topics they want to bring up or anything, that'd be cool. I'm just unwrapping shit. Which, as I was saying earlier, before anybody showed up... Oh, I love ZBrush. ZBrush is what I use for pretty much anything organic that I do. Like all the fists and stuff in my game, I did a pass through ZBrush to add detail and stuff. Like Blender has sculpt tools, but they're not super fantastic. So I can sculpt, and it does have Dynamesh, kind of. It has like its own form of Dynamesh where it automatically subdivides as you sculpt, which is pretty nice. But yeah, if I'm gonna sculpt anything, ZBrush plus a tablet is the way to go. I have Cintiq myself. In terms of games, I'm using Unreal Engine because Blender's game engine is, for lack of better words, not there. It's not very good. Alright, we're getting somewhere. I think we've beveled all the edges we need to. Let's take a look. Looks good to me. Let's unwrap it. So, cut around here. Do one unwrap so we can see what kind of a mess we just made. Cut around this whole dude. Save for these two edges. Cut around the whole interior. We don't need to cut these because that guy's looking fine. I don't know, Cintiq, if you can ever afford one, it's like one of the best investments I've ever made. It's so nice to have for sculpting and Photoshop. And then same thing over here. We can cut out the inside. Now we're getting somewhere. Gotta figure out which corners we want to cut. Doesn't really matter. But we can cut this guy off. Save for these two edges. I probably should have unwrapped the fingers before I modeled them. or like before I duplicated them, just so the seams would be in place. Would have been nice. Hindsight is 2020. These are N-gons, but the engine will triangulate those, so that's probably fine. That looks pretty good to me. We can cut these corners. Looking good. We can cut these corners. Which, what I'm hitting... Oh, I forgot to turn my screencast keys back on. So, Blender has this plugin called Screencast Keys, so you can actually see what I'm doing right here. If you have any questions about hotkeys that I'm using, I'm also just more than happy to answer if you ask anything. That's looking pretty cool to me. Let's see what area this is. That is the inside here. So we will cut it up. Diagonally, so it'll be nice and even. Unselect, unselect. That looks pretty good. We'll do the same thing over here, as that looks, yeah, that's pretty bad. So we will take these edges, cut those. Eventually I'll figure out exactly the process for unwrapping these stupid fingers. Okay, so these need to be cut. And these corners we missed. Which, for anybody looking for unwrapping tricks, under options, there's this cool tag seam and live unwrap. The tag seam lets you hold control and right click to just cut like that. And then, oh god, you watched my oldest video? I'm sorry, I don't even know what my oldest video is. It's probably really bad. Yeah, I do CG stuff for a living. I've also worked on shows like Man in the High Castle and Silicon Valley. Doing ZBrush work, surprisingly. Let's see if we can find any more edges to cut. Yeah, for like Man in the High Castle, I did some... Oh, I'm gonna regret saying this, but I did some naked Nazi statues, and for Silicon Valley, I did some CG work. Oh, okay, good. I hid my even older stuff. Oh, man. You'd be surprised. Silicon Valley has a lot of CG stuff. I can post a link here shortly, potentially, if I can find it. Yeah, and a lot of the shows where you wouldn't expect to have visual, like, you wouldn't expect a lot of movies or shows to have visual effects, but sometimes those are the ones that have the most visual effects. Like, even random romantic comedies and shit have tons of VFX just to cover stuff up. Ah, this looks pretty good to me. Move on to the next piece. Oh. Okay, we're good. We will turn this down to 2, apply it. We already know pretty much where we're going to need to make cuts. So we can get away with doing it pretty quickly now. hit unwrap, see where we stand. Cut out the interior. Oh, motherfucker. I screwed up. I forgot to undo the bevel for the center. So, I think we can do this faster. We can just come in here and... Actually, we can just mark a seam there. So, select these faces. Ah, didn't work. Oh, I see why it didn't work. This will prevent us from having to select individual faces. But anyway, now we can... This is an experiment for me. We can just hit set S sharp and that should undo all of them. It worked! Cool. Which means I think we can do similar stuff here. Except we'll hide these faces. And we'll hide these faces so the loop doesn't go all the way around. Then we'll just do this. And I think this is faster than what I was doing. Except for when I miss stuff. Yeah, I don't really know if this is faster. Just switching things up. It looks pretty good to me. Need to set these corners beveled. But yeah, and visual effects aren't just in like abstract VFX would be cool. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed your initial comment. I don't know what you mean by abstract VFX. Yeah, cleaning up now saves us time later. It's unfortunate that it's so painful and boring. Like, if I wasn't making a time-lapse out of this, I probably wouldn't even stream this part of the process. But I think that's all the edges I needed to hit, so let's unwrap it. Oh, there are plenty of great learning resources for Blender. I'll type a few in the chat. Just Google these. CG Cookie is good. Blender Guru is good. Those are the two I would start with. Andrew Price is the Blender Guru guy. He's super friendly. Has a ton of great tutorials. CG Cookie is really good. Jonathan Williamson especially is a really good teacher. I think that's his name. If I got that wrong, he's gonna hurt me later. I'm always thinking John Williams, which is like Star Wars music person. Alright, I think we're good to unwrap this now. So we can mark that seam, unwrap. Actually clear all the seams since there are some left over. That's looking good. We'll cut around this edge. We will cut around these edges, just like we did on the last finger. This is pretty much repetition in the process. That looks good. Do the same thing over here. But, I mean, the resources are there. Google is going to be your best friend for learning literally anything these days. Oh, we missed a corner on beveling. That's unfortunate. I don't think it's noticeable enough to undo what we've done. It'll just be like an Easter egg or something. I don't know. Shit, that's ugly though. Did I miss any other edges? I don't know. If that's the only one, I'm not too worried about it. I don't really draw in Photoshop. I use it mostly for photo manipulation and matte paintings and stuff. Like super simple mattes for visual effects. I know a lot about Photoshop. I use Photoshop on like a daily basis for the past, I don't know, 10 years. I mean, I've been using After Effects and Photoshop pretty much, yeah, a lot. Like, After Effects and Photoshop are my initial jams. Video Copilot's great if you want to learn some After Effects stuff. Andrew Kramer is kind of the man. Alright, now what are we missing? Oh, the outside here. That makes sense. So I'm just holding control while I'm clicking to cut seams, and it's automatically unwrapping over there, which is why I love unwrapping in Blender. It's very intuitive. Alright, that looks pretty good to me. Oh, we missed a couple corners. Yeah, and it's really fast. If you see something you don't like on your UV sheet, you can just select it and then zoom in on it using the numpad. These corners could be cut. And that corner can be cut. Oh, I think that's everything. That looks pretty good to me. So move on to the next piece. We've only got 5 fingers, 3 down, 2 to go. Alright, I do not like how we fucked shit up last time, so I'm just going to unbevel these manually, as I was doing. Takes longer, but it's cleaner. So what kind of music are you all into? Maybe I should get some royalty-free music playing in the background or something so this isn't so boring. Set you down to 2 segments. I think the bevel matches. Yeah, it matches pretty well. Alright. yeah, we'll go ahead and apply this and unwrap it for better or for worse. Mark that seam, unwrap, see how much of a mess we have. Come in here and do these ones. Which, this edge select tag seam thing is witchcraft. It's like the best tool. Oh man, I know some dubstep I could possibly play. I have like some royalty-free music, but let's see what we got. Documents, resources, because I'm subscribed to Digital Juice, which is great. It's like $10 a month and you have unlimited access to all sorts of music, graphics, effects, and stuff completely royalty free. So we can get some of that coming. I don't know how loud that is in comparison to my voice, so I'll just keep it kind of quiet. Okay, I think that's... we need to cut the inside. And we need to cut the inside here too. And then... all this music is completely royalty free, which is nice. Oh, I thought you meant like audio fines. I think this guy should be okay. We're good there. We're good on those corners. We're not good on these corners. Not good on these corners. And I should get like a playlist together before the next time I stream. These are both looking fine. Let's get the interiors to look fine too. So that's looking good. We'll cut across the diagonal corner just to piece it up a bit more. Once I get to the actual texturing of this, it's going to be a hell of a lot more interesting because Substance Painter is cool as shit. And then we'll cut diagonally. Oh no, he needs more clicks. Let's see, there's some more corners we need to do. If you ever get into CG stuff, unwrapping sucks. There's no other explanation or description of it. It just sucks. Alright, cowbell solo. Oh, I don't know if it's gonna play more music automatically. I don't have like a playlist or anything. So let's see what this one is. Alright, this is looking pretty good to me. If we need to change some stuff up later or notice an error later, it's easy enough to fix, so we'll move on to the next one. Which is just the thumb. And we can actually combine that with this, I think. I don't know why screwed up. Oh, this one doesn't have the solidify applied. Well, for better or for worse, we'll apply it, and then we'll join. Overall, looks pretty good to me. We can fix the insides. The only reason I'm doing this is because it's adding like 3 or 4 faces per edge, and that's completely unnecessary. Especially when you're working on a VR game, you really need to get performance as good as possible. It has to render the image in 90 frames per second twice. Anywhere you can skimp on faces is nice. You can actually do bevels in your normal map if you are smart. I'm not, I guess. That looks good to me. We'll go ahead and unwrap it. Blender's great. I have nothing negative to say about it. Oh, haven't heard this song. Oh, this is like super chill fall asleep music. And, I mean, the interface in Blender just keeps getting better, plus they are working on... Oh, no! Well, I done fucked that up. We weren't far enough in unwrapping for it to matter, so we'll go ahead and bevel it again. No more super secret Easter eggs. Alright, now we can apply that and unwrap shit. And unwrap the center. Not looking bad. Not great, but not terrible. And what are some of the other things you need to learn? Like, I would love to get back into doing Houdini personally, just because the simulations are so neat. Aw, oh, god damn it. Yeah, we don't want this to be beveled. Like, that's just a disgusting mess. I feel like I'm having to redo a lot on this one. It's like the last finger I have to do. And Blender modeling is really fast just because everything is completely hotkey based. You don't have to dive into menus or anything, which I know you can set up custom hotkeys in Maya, but that's kind of a pain. Okay. Make sure everything I want beveled is beveled and everything I don't want beveled is not. I think we're finally good. So, what are you? I definitely cut you. I did not cut you. And we'll come in, cut diagonally. I don't know why that's happening. That's cut. And that's cut. Ah, motherfucker. Yet another thing I forgot to bevel. This is just gonna take forever for the stupid thumb. And I can put out a quick test render. And he looks pretty much like this right now, which isn't great, just because there's no textures or anything. It'll be a hell of a lot more interesting once there are textures. We can change the brightness of the sun and the size to get more shadows. That's a robot in progress. Like, once we actually get textures and stuff on it, it'll look a hell of a lot more badass. My music ran out again. Let's see what else we got. Goofy fun. Let's try it. Oh no, this is gonna be bad. I wonder if I can just like have a playlist. I apologize for this music. I'm just gonna take everything and drag it in. Alright, thanks, Dark Shift. I'll catch you later. Like, it'll be a lot more interesting to watch when it's a time lapse. I'm sorry guys, I'm just grabbing some music to put into a playlist. I don't know how to... I don't know how to add stuff in this weird-ass music software that Windows has. Alright, I think all the proper edges are finally beveled. How that... Because you can't just drag stuff into it. This is weird as hell. Apologize for the break. I'm just trying to figure out how to... Anybody know how to use the Windows Groove Music app? It's kind of dumb. Songs. Like, if this was a reasonable application, you'd be able to just add music by dragging it in. I'll just play with Windows Media Player. That'll end up being better. And back to work on the robot. Okay. After being distracted, I think I finally have everything beveled that needs to be beveled for this one. And those are not beveled. I just don't want to make any more mistakes because that was frustrating. Looks good to me. That's correct. Make sure this interior edge is marked. Looking good. And then looks like there's one more area that needs to be done. And then we can find any last corners that need to be cut. Basically, the red edges are edges that are being cut. Anything else? This looks pretty ugly, but I think it's fine. Let's see what's going on here. Let's see what angle base looks like. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. You never know. And this time, angle-based might actually be better. Regardless, there are a couple more corners we can cut to spread things out a bit more. We got those ones, we got those ones. Yeah, angle-based looks better in this instance. Weird. I'm used to conformal looking better. Now we can unwrap all these goddamn cylinders. Which, are these linked? They're not. That's fine. Cylinders are pretty easy. Oh, welcome back to the most boring part of modeling a robot. We'll just join all of these. Set the bevel down to 2, and then get to... God, I hate cylinders. Okay, there are a bunch of edges here that we can get rid of bevels on. Yeah, I just have a subscription to Digital Juice for music. I use it in the game, first of all, but also just whenever I need royalty-free music, it's nice to have access to. Oh, this is a track that I used in our Game Jam game. Game Jam was really fun. If anybody's interested in game development, it's a good way to learn stuff. We had to make a full game in 3 days. Alright, and to triangulate things, we can... select all of these. I think that's all of them. So the last thing you want is for the game engine to triangulate things for you. So we can come down here and change this to individual origins, extrude, scale 0, and then go to vertex and remove doubles. That'll remove all those vertices. And we have nice triangulated circles. Yeah, there are a bunch of different game jams. So the one we were participating in was the UE4 jam for winter 2018. But there are game jams hosted by different people happening like every weekend. Man, after making a whole game in 3 days, I was pretty exhausted. I don't know if I could do it every weekend. Yeah, if anybody's interested, I'll post the link to our Game Jam game. It turned out pretty well. So, This is the game we made for the Game Jam last weekend. The theme was On Thin Ice. So we decided to make a game where it's VR and you have to shoot cannonballs to break the ice before enemies cross, but restore the ice before townspeople cross. If I missed any bevels, it's not the end of the world for these cylinders. So I'll just go ahead and join all these. And I think we can just join all of them. modify the bevel to be a bit sharper. Make sure the scale's applied. And then set this to 2, apply, and now we can just go to town. So, where I cut that, I think that's going to be fine for cuts. But the trick here is going to be being able to figure out where we've cut and where we haven't. Just because there are so many of these. Actually, these joints are similar enough. No, you can just add a cylinder, Atticus. It's just a typical primitive object. So if you hit Shift A and you go to Mesh, these are all of your options for primitives. So you got like spheres, toruses, cones, cylinders, cubes, and then you just choose whatever's best to start out with for whatever you're working on. But yeah, these joints are similar enough that I think I can just delete all of them except for a couple. So we'll get rid of... That one's different. I think that's the only different one, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So we'll just delete all these, and then cut the seams and then duplicate them. I mean, hell, even these look about the same. These look different enough. So we'll cut, we'll cut, and just so it's easy to apply materials later, we'll cut these edges, because I'm thinking these will be shiny, the rest will be matte. So this guy looks pretty good. We do need to cut a seam around the base. And around these. Oh. The rest of this looks pretty good to me. So now, the fun part, duplicating these all and scaling them again. We'll save this as a new iteration in case we hate it later. It would have been good to save those, just for reference. I'm gonna go back here. Merge these, and call them cylinder ref. Save this out as cylinder ref, just so we can match this up. Alright, so now we have a good reference for what we need to match. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be close enough. Oh, that's already a pretty good match. Nice. So now the benefit to these already being cut is once we duplicate it across, we just have to hit unwrap again and everything will automatically lay out. Close enough. Oh, I see what's happening. It's not high enough. So these all look like they match up pretty well. I think overall we can take these discs and scale them out some. Do I brush my teeth on the weekends? Yes, yes I do. That's a pretty weird question. Oh, that looks pretty good to me. Of course, we have to... Oh, they're scaling individually already. That's fine then. Alright, number next. These are going to need to match up on the Z-axis. Pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And my friends are asking if we want to do Fortnite tonight. Okay, this guy I think we can also just duplicate from over here. Nah, he's different enough. So we'll go ahead and unwrap this. Oh shit! There are all of our cylinders. Oh man, I have 2 live stream windows open, that's unnecessary. Alright, that looks correct. Make sure all these are individualized. Cool. Yeah, so many circles. And then we also got to unwrap this guy right here. This is the easiest way to unwrap cylinders, though, I've found. I think the hands are going to have to be their own thing in terms of texturing. Okay, those shouldn't have been beveled, but we'll just tolerate it. And we can cut across all these, and that'll give us some lines. Make sure these are all individual. Make sure all these are correct. Cool. You're not cut, so we'll cut it. I don't think we cut any of these. Just making sure everything is correct. We missed one. Thanks. We might play Fortnite soon here if they decide to. Might stream it. I don't have my green screen set up right now though. Holy shit, that's a lot of circles. This is definitely gonna have to be a 2K or 4K map. Oh, and we need to duplicate one more. So we'll take this guy, duplicate him over here. And try to match it up to the best of our ability. Like so. And then... Oh, we're gonna have to scale that out some first. That looks about right. And there's an easier way to do this probably. I'm just don't want to. Yeah, the reason I have to be careful about the angles here is just because we have to rig all of this later. That will be a couple streams into of itself. Alright, so now our reference, we can shove that on our garbage layer. And it looks like everything is more or less unwrapped that needs to be. So we can hit the U key, and that'll give us this disaster to look at. And we'll deal with that later. Put this on separate layer. Oh, whoa, was that everything? Everything on the hand, I think, has been unwrapped now. No way. So now if we join all of this... Cool, we finished the hands. So, I guess we'll just move on to the next stuff. Anything that's done, we'll put on the layer down there. So I'll start with our panels. We'll apply the Okay, oh yeah, that's ugly. The solidify is fine to apply for these because it's where I want it to be. Then we can bevel it a little bit more. Not happy with what I had applied on the solidify though. We gotta bevel these edges. And we have to make these not overlapping. Oh, that looks better. And if they're rough, that's fine. It looks like he's a destroyed robot. So that looks fine now. There's a little bit of mesh collision here, but I don't think it's terrible. Hey, Daniel Sides, how's it going? Make sure everything's beveled that needs to be. So it's easier to fix that now than later, after everything's unwrapped. And clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up. This mesh collision is not going to matter too much. Oh, nice. Game jams are so much fun. Best of luck with it. If you're doing it yourself, what theme are you doing? Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Oh man, that's funny. Observation about someone making their robot. Oh, one piece at a time, here we go. So we'll apply the solidify, we'll come in and do these edges. I missed some again. Did we miss any more? Oh man, that sounds complicated. Something with Earthbound mechanics. I never actually played the Earthbound games. Were those good? I mean, I've heard good things about them. Now I think we're safe to apply that. If anything's not beveled at this point, we're just going to call it. Because I have to unwrap this robot. And these edges, I don't know if we need to unwrap them. Yeah, I mean, making a fun game is more important than having great art. I can definitely get behind that. Yeah, I don't think I need to bevel all these edges. I think it'll look fine. So we'll just go ahead and apply the bevel and unwrap this shit. One piece at a time. And that looks fine to me. Yeah, if we were paying attention, we would have gotten rid of the bevel on the interior edges to save on faces, but at this point it's just whatever. Looking good. So the ones that we've already done, we can separate out. I don't know where these are still connected. Oh! I see what's going on here. There we go. Number next. Looks good. Number next. After I get these arms done, I might call it quits for the night and go play Fortnite. just because we've been going for 2 hours. We finished the hands and it's pretty good. The rest of it's not as complicated as the hands. It's not as detailed. Alright, later Atticus, have a good night. Also realize my screencast keys aren't on, so I guess it's hard to tell what I'm doing. And these have, the other arm has to be done separately since I made it asymmetric. So, one piece at a time. And the corners just help prevent stretching a little bit. Like, this isn't 100% necessary to do the corners like this, especially if you're using something like Substance Painter. But it's just a nice to have. Alright, friends said they're free around midnight to play Fortnite, so I guess I'll just keep unwrapping until then. Oh shit, what did I do? I missed a corner and marked this instead. Yeah, what's tedious about making games is every damn little thing has to be unwrapped. The reason I'm not worrying about bevels on these corner edges is just because they're going to be pretty far away from the player. Nobody's going to notice that in a million years. The reason I was so adamant about it on the fists was because those are actually going to be punching at the player. They're going to get pretty close up. So those have to look good. We're almost done unwrapping the arm panels here. Looks like we missed some bevels. At this point, I'm just going to say that's alright. There's enough stuff here that it's just not going to matter. It's going to make unwrapping a little bit more painful though, I think. Yeah, we're going to have to do like that. Oh wait, no we're not. This is fine. Anyway, we only do in here. Then how do we want to handle this? Yeah, I guess we can come around here like this. So now that's separate and we can cut these edges properly. And that will be fine. Yeah, that'll be completely fine. Yeah, so what happened was we did stuff on the left arm, not on the right arm. That's my bad. If anything, having some sharp and unbeveled edges will just make it look messier though, which is totally fine since he's like a destroyed, messy-ass robot. And I missed all of these. So, let's do it. miss any edges. Of course, with my track record tonight, can't be too sure. Looks good. Same things, same cuts we've been making. We just have to get all these panels unwrapped, and it's going to take some time. That's all it comes down to. Looks good. I don't know if this is angle based, it's a bit conformal, looks like about the same. So I think we're totally fine here. And these Ingons, I don't think they'll be a huge issue. They might look a little bit weird in engine, but they're going to get far enough away that it doesn't really matter. We're almost done with the arms, hooray! Looking good. And looking good. So now we can join all of the arm panels. Let's go ahead and hide this ground plane because it's just going to get in our way. Missed one. I know PD. I don't work with him, but I've known him since high school. We're good old friends that go way back. He's a really good guy. And he's talented as hell. So, if we join all of these, hit unwrap, we're good. And we can move that to the unwrapped layer. This looks weird as hell. Let's just continue working on the arms. These panels can be unwrapped. We can join these probably, actually, after we apply the solidifies. I think we can apply the scale, and then unwrap them. And this is the whole process for unwrapping. You just keep doing one piece at a time until it's done. It's slow, it's tedious, but it gets you the best results for texturing. And we can take this one. This one's not even beveled, so we'll go ahead and do that. Set this down to 2 segments. Apply it. That one's good to go. Move that down to the unwrapped layer. So this is everything that we've unwrapped so far in 2 hours. That gives you an idea of how tedious unwrapping can be. But we can go ahead and try to finish out the arms here. So these are mirrored, which is going to save us a lot of time. Yeah, so at Past Midnight TV, cool name by the way, your layers are down here. So like that's a layer, that's a layer, that's a layer. 3D layers are a little bit different than Photoshop layers in the sense that they aren't stacked one above the other. Since they're in 3D space, that wouldn't really work as a system. But you have a bunch of layers down here that you can take advantage of. And someone wrote a plugin called the Blender Layer Manager that's a lot better. I don't personally use it, but it would save a lot of time. I should probably look into it. Alright, so in terms of things being beveled correctly, these look about right. So we'll go ahead and apply all this stuff. We won't apply the mirror, that way we can cut seams and have a nice easy life. And only have to do it for one side, not the other side. So we will cut that, cut that, cut that. That shouldn't have been beveled in there. We'll go ahead and undo that since we're so early in this process. Alright, now it all looks correct. And let's make sure it's the same for this. It's not. We're just gonna get rid of the ground plane, because that's gonna get really annoying really fast. Yeah, going between 3D and 2D definitely takes some getting used to with how things are organized. And I love layer-based things like Photoshop, After Effects, but an approach like that would be pretty weird for 3D software. That looks correct. That looks correct. Now we can get back to unwrapping this. So we'll cut around here and around here. That'll give us a decent circle. And then we'll stay consistent on where we're cutting seams for the cylinders. Okay. So let's see where we've cut so far. That looks fine. If we really wanted to, we could cut another edge there. That looks fine. That looks fine. We do need to cut these seams, though. Oh man, I don't... Yeah, let's go ahead and cut that just to be even. Okay, so we have you, you're a piece, you're a piece, you're a piece, you're a piece. So we need to fix that. This is all looking correct now. Alright, looks like we have one down, and we can even extrude these in to triangulate them. Oh, I'll come over here and do this one. We'll just cut all the circles we think are necessary first. Looks about right. And then the elbow facing out is where people aren't gonna see mostly, so we'll cut our seams there. Let's see, we've got you, that's correct, you are not correct. We need to cut you. Correct. Not correct. Not correct. Alright, we're good on this one. So move on to the next one. It's easier sometimes if you isolate things. Yeah, we'll go ahead and cut that. I don't think we missed anything. And we'll just cut along the bottom here. Got you, you, It's just good to check to make sure you cut everything the way you wanted to. Beautiful. So now we just have this piece. And then we can unmirror it and everything will be unwrapped properly, which is going to be great. So first things first, we'll cut out this corner area. And that's kind of a disaster unto itself, so we'll figure out what to do about that a little bit later. We just want to cut them out for now. These need to be cut. These need to be cut. Honestly, this whole piece could probably be its own thing. Yeah, I don't think we need to cut this. That is going to be completely fine. We might want to cut out the ring just for the sake of being able to differentiate materials easily. We don't need to cut any cylinder pieces. So that looks fine. This guy we're going to want to cut along the bottom. Cut along the bottom there. Cut along the bottom there. Cut this out. Screwed that up. Cut that out, cut that out. And then cut the same edges here. And then when we rearrange the UVs later, once we've combined all of them, we can put a bunch of small islands inside of these cylinders to save space. I'll show you that when we get to it eventually. But that's a long ways off. We still have to unwrap everything. Let's go ahead and fix these guys up. Okay, so how do we want to handle this? I'm thinking we can just cut along this edge. Will be easy enough. And that looks fine. For something that most people are never even going to pay attention to or see, that looks totally fine. It's better than it was. Which for all intents and purposes is all that really matters to us. Huh. This one wasn't beveled. That's fine though. So make sure nothing looks weird. Everything looks pretty alright to me. So now we can apply the mirror. And the arm joints are done. So we can grab this and put it on the unwrapped layer. Next we can take this piece. This one will be easy enough. Just more cylinder stuff. It looks like it's already pretty correct, so we'll just get into it. We don't have to worry about the mirror. We can just apply that after we've unwrapped it. Beautiful. And come to the front here, unwrap the bottom edges. And this one was nice and easy. So then we can apply the mirror, unwrap, and move it to the unwrapped layer. Now for the arms, all we have left is some pipes, and that's nice and easy. And these are curves still, so what we're going to do about that is just turn them into mesh, which is easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and up increment the file. For these guys, any of them, yeah, once we apply these as mesh, we can go ahead and join them too. So you do that really easily just by hitting Alt-C, and that's mesh from curve text. We'll do the same for you, do the same for you, do the same for you. And then the rest of these are cylinders, I think. We'll go ahead and apply the bevel on those. Apply the bevel on those. This doesn't have a bevel, and we'll just join everything. So it'll be easy enough to unwrap it as one thing. So this is easy. You just cut around here. That's really ugly to look at. We shouldn't have applied the bevel on these guys yet until we looked at it. That's just too ugly to ignore. And we'll come down here and do the same for these. They look fine. And we can actually get away with deleting some faces on these too. And on these. Which I think we already deleted those, so that's fine. So now, we should be able to come in and join off this without much issue. No, because we didn't apply the bevel. Unwrap. And it's gonna look weird as hell for a second until we get everything else unwrapped. Okay, next is gonna be this guy, which I don't know that we need any of those faces. We don't. So we can delete these two faces. Mark a seam. That's getting us somewhere. These guys we can clean up a good bit. We don't need like any of these edge loops. That's just extra faces that we don't need. And then we can probably delete like every other one of these. And we can definitely delete all these since it's straight. This is the one downside to working with curve objects. Okay, so that looks much cleaner. These guys already look pretty clean, so we'll leave them alone. These ones, we can just cut edges, and those look fine. We can do the same for these. and we'll see what's happening here. Ah, I thought this was mirrored. We can just mirror it, I'm pretty sure. We'll separate these just to be safe and put them on the garbage layer, but I think we can just mirror this. And now compared to the garbage layer, it looks like it matches up pretty well. We're not going to need a couple of these things. Of course, these aren't matching up with the hands either. So we'll move these in. Well, the 2D and 3D animations have their positives and negatives. 3D, the setup takes forever because you have to model everything. And if you're doing a complex robot like this, it just takes time. But then once you're animating it, you're working with a puppet, essentially, so you don't have to redraw the same character over and over again, which is really nice. So, in that sense, 3D can be a little bit faster, because once you have your characters set out and stuff, you can make a bunch of episodes for cheap. Well, not cheap, but cheap enough. Which I think we're going to want to cut these this way. And that's looking pretty good. So now that it's mirrored, we can just apply that and unwrap, and we have all that done. So now we have arms done, so that's pretty cool. And we can actually delete this edge loop to save on faces. Cool, cool. And all that's still matching up even though we mirrored it, so that's good to know. In terms of like modeling, unwrapping, and texturing, that's all just going to take time. And usually at a studio, you have one person dedicated to each task. Like there's one person who models stuff all day, every day. That's all they do ever. There's one person who textures stuff. That's all they do all day, every day. There's one person who does simulations. It's all split up, which makes it a lot easier if you're not working alone. So, that gets us through the arms. Now I guess we'll just keep moving down the line. And we've been going for about 3 hours tonight, so I think we'll call it for the unwrapping for tonight, and I'll continue streaming this tomorrow and try to get through a lot more, because I'd really like to get to texturing. That's going to be the fun part. But thank you all for watching and stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Take it easy.